Yo! Yes, everybody, we are back with some more One Piece. Woohoo! We're here finally with the Onigashima review. I do apologize. It took quite a while, but I look good, chat. I look good. I feel good. I smell good. I hope so. If I don't smell good, I'd be very sad. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about the Onigashima portion of Wano, or otherwise known as Act 3. Now, I had mixed feelings of Part 1 and 2 of Wano. There were things that I liked. There were things that I didn't like. Honestly, as far as going through Wano, it was a bit of a drag going through Part 1 and 2. It definitely feel like Oda was trying to prepare a lot in the kitchen, and unfortunately, because he was trying to do so much, he neglected certain parts of the story, and there's just too much going on at some points. It was a bit hard to follow. There were multiple locations that we were at, and there's so many characters to keep up with that it's very hard to get emotionally invested with certain aspects of the story. So we go to Act 3, when we go to Onigashima, we have all the setup for this big raid and taking down Kaido and taking down Orochi and setting the land of Wano free. But before we get to the actual raid, we need to talk about Oden. I think that Oden is one of the best parts of Wano, and I don't think it's a far stretch to say that for most people. So when we start the Oden flashback, we see Oden's youth in Wano. He's a wild, he's uncontrollable, and he's free. And there's this recurring idea of freedom. And he has always thought that the land of Wano, as vast as it is, it's too small for him. He always wanted to see the world, to travel. So eventually he is exiled from the flower capital, and he forms the 9 red Scabbards. So we see the Scabbards, we see Kinemon, we see Kanjuro, we see Kawamatsu, we see all of them encounter this extremely charismatic figure, Oden. Now I know some people don't necessarily love Oden because they feel like he's a bit of an industry plant. We're supposed to love Oden as much as possible, but we don't actually think it naturally. It's just told to us that we're supposed to love him. So I understand the frustration there, but I like Oden. I really enjoy his character. I honestly thought he was going to be a D. The way that he acts, I legit thought that he was going to be involved in all of this, D business, like the will of D, because that's the archetype of his character. He's loud, brash, and he makes waves wherever he goes. So it was actually a pleasant surprise to see that he's not. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad that not every character that's influential in One Piece has to be from that lineage, quote unquote. They're not related by blood, but rather, the will of fate and et cetera, whatever your theories are. And so we see that Oden actually ends up saving the land of Kuri, and he becomes daimyo for a bit. And eventually he runs into Whitebeard as well as Goldie Roger. Now, seeing Goldie Roger actually lively and talking with people, it's interesting because he's a bit more humanized here. Throughout One Piece, we never really got a whole lot of him. We didn't really know anything of him. And I know people are hyped up the Whitebeard versus Goldie Roger fight. Honestly, I mean, this was really when I started to kind of loathe some of these post-time skip fights, because a lot of them are just hockey clashes and not the most interesting thing in the world. I feel like the fight choreography definitely suffered a bit when hockey was introduced. Sometimes I get this feeling with some of Zoro's fights later on as well. They're not as interesting in my personal opinion. They're still entertaining, but I feel like there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda. The poses are fantastic, but it's just like clash. I feel like the in-between, I feel like it's very similar to a Horikoshi from My Hero Academia, where the fight choreography suffered, but the art still remained fantastic. So people like that fight. I thought it was just fine. I thought it was just okay. I wasn't really blown away. I don't come to One Piece for the fights. I don't. That's the wrong type of series that we're coming into. If you're coming to One Piece for fights, you're going to be very disappointed, honestly. But yes, I think that they're the icing on the cake. I think the biggest thing when it comes to One Piece is the world building, the lore, the characters, the emotions. The emotions is the biggest part of One Piece, in my personal opinion. And we see that throughout their travels together, that Oden and Goldie Roger ended up at Raftel, and they actually learned the truth of the world. Now, we don't exactly know what they read at the final island. We don't know exactly what they had seen, but it had caused Goldie Roger to just bust out laughing along with all of his crew. What they saw in Raftel, I don't know. I don't have have enough of a idea to form a theory yet, because we have I'll leave this for the egghead review. We have the theory of what Luffy's dream is. We still don't know what it is, but we have some theories, right? But here, I don't know. It's gonna be what happened in the blank period of history, but I don't know what we still don't know what happened there. We don't know exactly how much Joy Boy was involved in. I'm assuming a whole lot, considering everything revolving around Emu. But for the big scary part of the world to cause people to laugh out loud, I think that's a very it's a very nice moment. It's very cathartic. I think it's a bit of a rug pull for the audience, because sometimes it's like, oh, the big bad scary part of the world, it's gonna cause you to just shake in fear and quake in your boots, but here it causes people to laugh uncontrollably. That's interesting. I like that a lot. And so unfortunately, Oden returns to Wano too late, and Orochi is in control of Wano along with Kaido. Now Orochi, his clan had been cursed and disgraced by the Kozuki clan, so he's got generational beef with them, and I understand that. I still don't love Orochi as a villain. I think that he's still a bit too cookie cutter. He's still just a bit bland, for my personal opinion. And I know people are, but you like Kaido. I'll talk about Kaido soon. I'll talk about Kaido very soon. And we see that Orochi manipulates Sukiyaki, and as Kaido arrives into Wano, Oden is tricked into submission, and even though he's outraged and he's livid at what Orochi did to his country, we have a bit of a skip, and we see Oden dancing like a fool in the street. And so you're wondering, well, what happened? What caused him to do this? Why would he just throw away all of his dignity? And we eventually find out that Orochi and Kaido had been holding the country of Wano hostage, and eventually Oden is fed up with it. He and the 9 Scabbards attempt to go overthrow Kaido along with Orochi, and I'm gonna be real with you. Oden was putting straight belt to ass on Kaido. It is very unfortunate that Kaido got a cheap shot on him. He got tricked. Oden got tricked by the old hag with the main fruit, and Kaido just smacked him on the fucking head. It's crazy to me, because you could see how Kaido's kind of like, I don't really know about that, but he still ran along with it. We have a very similar thing that happens later on in Onigashima, and I do enjoy the fact that Kaido doesn't want to make that same mistake again. It does make his character a bit more human for me personally, but unfortunately, Oden is defeated, and he is sentenced to boiling, and Oden and the Scabbards are forced to boil in a pot of oil, and Oden tries to make a deal, and Orochi says that he will let the Scabbards go, as well as Oden, if they manage to stay alive in this boiling oil for over an hour. And we see as the crowd mock and disrespect Oden during the 5 years that he was dancing, this disrespect turns into love and admiration. And we see just how much Oden means to the people of Wano, and how much he means to the people that he basically raised with the Scabbards. We see just how much that he means to these people. And we see that Oden does survive the hour, holding up the Scabbards within the boiling oil. And we see that Orochi doubles back on what he said to Oden, and he decides to have him executed by Kaido anyway. And the crowd is outraged, and Oden says something very, very, very fitting for his character. He says Oden wouldn't be Oden if it wasn't boiled. Now, obviously, this is a play on his name, because Oden is a type of food, but also it's talking about how he's just a hard-boiled, he's a very intense, tough guy. He wouldn't be himself if he didn't go through these trials and tribulations. I really like this poetic moment. And his final words were to open Wano's borders to the world. As scary as it is to actually share what they have with the world, and to actually endure the hardships of the world with everybody else. That's interesting. That's been this whole theme around Oden, is to share a feast with everybody, communion, community, right? And so we see the Scabbards escape, and Toki ends up sending them to the future, and then we have the legend of Oden being shared within the land of Wano, along with other places, but primarily within Wano. Oden is for sure one of my favorite characters that we've been introduced to within One Piece. I don't necessarily feel that he is like an industry plant character. We're supposed to like him. I think that just with his actions, I think that he definitely deserves the respect that he has gotten. Maybe a little less so, because we're told constantly how much we're supposed to love him, and you have Luffy reacting emotionally to his flashback, which he's never really been the type to do. But I think also that's because Luffy has kind of matured a little bit as well. People don't necessarily like hearing that, but Luffy is not the same person that he was in Arlong Park, right? He didn't hear Nami's backstory revolving around the Arlong Park pirates and everything like that. But now that he's older, I think that it's well within his right to actually react differently. but people also want their characters to stay the same because it's comfortable for them. So I get it to an extent. So the flashback ends, we have the Alliance regrouping, and the Fire Festival begins. And so when the Fire Festival begins, we have the ships being destroyed, and you have Kinemon as well as the other Scabbards in despair, and they're fully planning on taking on Kaido regardless, but they're wondering what happened to all of their allies. And we have the reveal that Denjiro, one of Kaido's lieutenants, is actually Kyoshiro, and he was so angry with what happened in the past that his face changed. Do I think that this is an ass pull? Yes, I'm not a huge fan of this. I'm sure that there's some cultural reason why this would be less jarring to someone from the Western side, but to me, this just felt like odd because we've never really seen something like this. Well, that's actually not true. We actually saw this with Sanji and Duval, so I guess it makes sense. But like permanently altering your face to something like that, it's just, I mean, it's kind of a gag, but not. It's like serious. Not a huge fan of it personally. I will confess. And one of the funniest things about Onigashima is the fact that Kinemon's plan completely works by mistake. He had no idea that one of his homeboys was actually working for Kaido, and he had no idea that, like, all our allies were meeting here in secret. Yeah, man, absolutely, I knew that totally. Like that's probably the funniest part of Onigashima, in my personal opinion. But we have our allies arriving secretly within Onigashima, so the day is not lost, and the raid officially begins. We have the Straw Hat Pirates disguised as the Beast Pirates. I really like Luffy and Zoro's design the best, along with Robin as well. Seeing everybody, along with Kid, in the Beast Pirates garb is really, I really like it. Oda has fantastic designs for the most part, especially with the movies as well, but I don't even know if Oda is 100% involved with the designs in the movies. But I wish we would have honestly had more time with the Straw Hats in disguise, but obviously that doesn't really fit Luffy or Zoro's character, right? So it was only going to be a matter of time before they eventually got out and got to fighting. But we have Luffy, Zoro, and Kid break formation to go fuck some shit up, obviously, and it's very entertaining, right? And we have Jinbe officially joining the Straw Hat crew as an ally. Oh, dude, Jinbe, oh, look, Jinbe's so cool, man. Not just because he's strong, but because everything we learned about him in Fishman Island, and he's one of the oldest members of the Straw Hat crew, so having a member of the Straw Hat crew with a bit more wisdom and knowledge of the world, that's, you know, not Brooke or Frankie, but someone that's a bit more seasoned, I really enjoy that dynamic that he has with everybody. Jinbe's the cool uncle that everybody loves. Very jolly, like a Santa, right? So as previously mentioned, we have the reveal that Kanjuro is a traitor. Momonosuke is unfortunately kidnapped, but the raid continues regardless. And we have Kaido and Big Mom announcing their alliance, and then we have the new Onigashima project revealed, and Wano is going to become a pirate stronghold, very similar to the place where Blackbeard is shacked up at Fullerlet Island. And then we are also introduced to the Tobi Roppo, basically Kaido's elite forces. We have Yamato introduced, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I really don't like Yamato's introduction this late into the story. The story is already bloated with so many characters to keep track of, but then you have Yamato, Kaido's son, who takes up so much importance in the story. Why are we introducing this character so late? And I want to like Yamato more than I do, and I enjoy Yamato, but for Yamato to only be reduced to I want to be just like Oden, I don't love that. I wish that Yamato had more agency. Like, obviously, yes, like they're Kaido's son and they want to be free just like Oden, and, you know, they encountered Ace back in the day, and it's all cool and well, but it's cool to see Oden affect somebody that we personally know, but I want just a bit more from Yamato's character. And the fact that seemingly we won't see Yamato for a good long while after this, the fact that Yamato stays in Wano, what the fuck? Why have Yamato do this? You could have had Yamato go along with the Straw Hat crew, but we have Yamato stay and protect Wano, which I understand, I get, but what's the point of introducing this character if you're just not going to have them, you set the stage for them to leave, but you just have them stay? That personally, I'm not a huge fan of. So eventually we have the Scabbards finally confronting Kaido, and we have the Sukong forms for the Minks activated as well. Seeing Dogstorm and Cat Viper absolutely beat the dog shit out of the Beast Pirates Scabbards was phenomenal. They give him some aura. Bro, the animation in Onigashima is absolutely fantastic. I do think that it peaked at a certain point, not with Luffy, but with somebody else. We'll talk about it. But I really love what they did with the Minks here, man. Actually making them relevant and giving them some stuff to do. I like it. It's cool. I like that. And we actually see that Kaido is damaged for the first time a little bit by the Scabbards because they mirrored one of Oden's techniques, and we have Kaido finally entering into his hybrid form. He basically gets a small power boost, but not as clunky or as big as he is within his dragon form. And the Scabbards, unfortunately, are defeated. And Kinemon is seemingly killed. Yeah, we'll talk about Kinemon later. Oh, God. Oh, God. So eventually, Luffy, Zoro, Law, Kid, as well as Killer reach the roof, and the 5v2 battle begins. We have Luffy revealing the extent of his new haki that he learned when he was in prison, and he hits Kaido with a red rock. And bro, in the anime, this shit was phenomenal. This entire episode where Luffy lands the red rock and like rises up in front of Kaido was absolutely flawless. The pacing was good. The animation was great. I wish that One Piece consistently kept this pacing when it comes to the anime, and I understand why it's not. Obviously, it's seasonal. Well, not anymore, obviously. Thank God. But it was fantastic. The original One Piece, the original music played. That shit was fire. That shit was great. And then we have Zoro coming in with an assist. We have Zoro blocking some fire attacks from Big Mom and Kaido, and he confesses that, yeah, he stole some of Kinemon's moves. I didn't know that Zoro was on some Goku timing. That was very interesting to see. We have Law coordinating some attacks, and eventually we have Killer defeating Basil Hawkins. Basil Hawkins versus Killer was actually a very interesting fight, and I didn't really think that that fight was going to be as entertaining as it was. I wanted to see some more of Basil Hawkins, but finding out that, oh yeah, like Killer knows his captain inside and out, and tricking him with the fact that Killer lost his arm, forcing Basil to actually like have no leverage on him whatsoever. That shit was great fight. I absolutely love this fight, by the way. So eventually they managed to get Big Mom down from the roof, and Luffy learns Advanced Conqueror's Haki. He basically is, during his battle with Kaido along with Big Mom, he's learning more and more. He's developing more of his observation Haki as well. But Kaido is still just absolutely monstrous. That's one of the biggest parts about Kaido, in my personal opinion, is that Kaido feels like this overwhelming force that we just strictly don't have enough for. He feels like this big wall. There have been characters in Shonen specifically that I have read similarly, but Kaido definitely feels like the most entertaining for me. I look at Kaido in a similar vein how I look to Yamato from Bleach, in the fact that they are supposed to be just absolutely just different. They are supposed to challenge our main cast in these different ways, but they're supposed to be basically immortal for all intents and purposes, and we're supposed to overcome them, and that's basically their character. I want to like Kaido more than I do. I would say the biggest thing about him is that he's entertaining, but he's simple, and I think he's effective. Not every single villain in One Piece has to have a Doflamingo-esque backstory or even like a Hody Jones backstory. Sometimes people are just strong and they attain that strength for a reason. I understand why some people don't like Kaido, is because the precedent has been set to where a lot of these villains have these super intricate backstories, but like, look at a Crocodile. Crocodile didn't really get as much of a backstory. We didn't learn that much about Arlong until the Fishman Island arc. So what I wouldn't put Kaido in that vein exactly, because he has his own moral code and everything. But even see with the Kaido flashback, the little flashback that we get, I did want a bit more, but Kaido was always wanted for his strength, very similar to a Sukuna, right? And we see that he was also sold off to the government for a little bit, and he was experimented upon, yada yada yada. But it's always a very interesting question, how will being the strongest affect you whenever it comes to media? And you have Sukuna's hunger that I've talked about in my Sukuna video, where everything exists for him to consume. And he and Kaido are very similar, right? Extremely similar. They both ran a gauntlet. They're both insanely strong villains. I would say that Sukuna, was defeated by less bullshit. I feel like Sukuna, with everything that happened in Shinjuku, I feel like Sukuna's death made more sense sense. Not to say that Kaido's demise just didn't make sense, but it was just a big punch from Gear 5 Luffy, who again we'll talk about. But I don't know. I liked it, but I kind of wanted some more from it. I'm not gonna lie. But before we get to anything Gear 5 related and all that, we got to talk about all the other stuff going on with the Tobi Roppo. We have Frankie versus Sasaki, or this Triceratops dude. We have Robin versus Black Maria. We have Jinbe versus Who's Who. Nami and Usopp versus Ulti and Page 1. And you also have Sanji versus Queen, Zoro versus King. Bro, these fights, specifically with the last two, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Chat, woo, chat, y'all. Before I get to the Zoro glaze, let's talk about piece by piece. So Frankie versus Sasaki, it was alright. It was cool. Frankie doesn't have the most entertaining fights in One Piece for myself personally. I feel like, you know, he got some stuff to do in Dressrosa. I like his fight in Dressrosa. This fight, honestly, it was kind of goofy, and I didn't really love it a whole lot, but it was alright. I didn't necessarily hate it. Robin versus Black Maria was actually very, very cool. Sanji originally was trapped by this big spider. She lured him in with her, feminine wiles and all that. And Sanji screams out for Robin to help him. He screams out, "Save me, Robin-chan." I know some people don't like this moment. It took a bit for me to kind of sit and digest this moment, because originally I was like, why is there so much emphasis on this? We know that Sanji's whole character is chivalry, that he doesn't like to rely on others too much, especially women, right? Sanji he's very prideful. He has a lot of ego. He's not brash about it. But for him to actually come to an understanding post Whole Cake Island and saying, I can't do this alone, like I need help, specifically from a woman. Not to say that, a woman can't do a job. He calls on Robin because he knows that she can handle it, no problem. But he knows that this is a situation that I can't get myself out of, and I don't want to put women in danger. I would like to handle it myself. But they're individuals too. They're people. They're fully capable as well. It's this idea of chivalry, and I really like this moment for Sanji. A lot of people said that I would hate Sanji post Whole Cake Island again. I really don't. I actually still really like Sanji. The fact that Sanji has the best observation hockey in all of One Piece whenever it comes to women in danger is the funniest gag, and I hope Oda doesn't ever do away with it. But no, I really like this fight. Also, dude, seeing Robin take on that Demon of Flores form, that shit was fire. A little freaky, I'm not gonna lie. I see what you're saying, Oda, and I'm not, I can get jiggy with that. But dude, she broke the sheep. She fucking, oh my god, she fucking murdered this chick. Oh my god. Fantastic moment. I like it. And if you're also paying attention, there's a character I haven't really talked about. It's Apu. Apu is all over Onigashima. I don't really care. I don't really care about Apu, and I don't really know why he's here. I don't really like him at all. I don't, man. I do. Whenever it came to Apu specifically in this arc, I was just like, bro, why are you here? Like, he's not that entertaining. And like, even Zoro was so annoyed that he was here. And he was making this whole competition with the, oh, who's got the cure to the Oni ice curse? Ooh, you got to come get it. Like, bro, this dumb shit in the middle of this, I'm not here for all that. And Zoro fully embraces this, but he just fucking one-taps. He one-taps Apu. Obviously, in the manga, it was a bit faster. But in the anime, that shit was crazy too. Like the 3/, that shit was fire. That shit was fire. I'm so glad the animators glazed Zoro as much as me. That makes me so happy. And we have Chopper actually getting a bit of shine in Wano as well. Now, people told me when I made my Chopper video some months back that Chopper would have a lot more to do in Wano. He gets a bit of shine, right? I'm glad that Chopper got some respect. He was able to actually, prove that he's a very competent doctor. Obviously, we know that Chopper's a very competent doctor, but just to other people around, he's actually able to figure out a cure for the ice demon curse. So I like that. The anime also gave Chopper a bit of aura as well with a couple of close-ups. So guys, Chopper moment, I like that. Again with Brook, man, damn, Brook doesn't get a whole lot to do in this arc. I understand it's hard to write 10 main characters. I get that, but Brook wasn't in Dressrosa. I mean, he was for like the beginning portion of it on the ship, and he did get like a small little fight, and that was interesting. But he wasn't in Whole Cake. He's not in Wano a whole lot, and even in Egghead. And I'm not finished with Egghead yet, but he's also not in Egghead a whole lot either. So I struggle to understand like kind of what we're doing with his character. Frankie, I did feel like post time skip was the most ignored Straw Hat, along with Usopp. But now I feel like it's Brook. Brook's just kind of there. It kind of sucks. So then we have Sanji versus Queen. Now, me and my editor were talking about this fight, and I like this fight, but I wanted more from it. And there's an element in this fight specifically that I'm not a huge fan of personally. So during the fight with Sanji and Queen, we have Queen trying to goad Sanji into fucking up during their fight. He's like, yo, I'm the best scientist around. I'll prove to Judge that I'm a better scientist than him, and you're just a science experiment. And Sanji's like, no, like I'm not related to my family. And Sanji ends up having this conflict within himself where he's like, well, I'm not my family. I don't ever want to be like those people. And during the fight, Sanji gets distracted and his leg ends up broken, but it's dented. And I'm like, what? And I had said in my Whole Cake Island review that I thought it was weird that all of Sanji's siblings had these exoskeletons and things like that, but Sanji didn't. I thought that was just because of how his mother tried to obviously end her own life when he was born. I thought it was just like that. But no, Sanji still has Germa genes. Sanji still has an exoskeleton. And I thought it was weird because I'm like, well, wasn't Sanji like always like human? But even Queen himself says, where do those flames come from? And Sanji's like, oh, it's just my passion. So obviously we know Sanji doesn't have a devil fruit. I just thought it was like early hockey or something like that. But no, I guess that Oda was confirming that, you know, with Diablo, Jamblade and all that, no, it was actually his Germa genes. So I mean, it makes sense. I get it. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it was not a bit underwhelming, but I was like, it felt a bit inconsistent. But, you know, I'm not one of these people that thinks that Oda planned every single thing out 20 plus years in advance. But I also feel like Sanji has had injuries that he has taken where, you know, an exoskeleton would definitely help in this case. But as he's going through his fight with Queen, we actually see him fully embrace his Germa side, and he unlocks Infinite Jinbe, where he decides to coat his own exoskeleton in armament hockey, and his flames actually turn blue, and he's faster. And again, animation on this fight was absolutely superb. People told me that Vincent Chansgard was on this as well. I know there's obviously other animators like Vincent Chansgard, but dude's a fucking legend, so I'm gonna shout out him wherever I can. I don't really care. And Sanji ends up defeating Queen with relative ease. I was a bit frustrated because Sanji's fights are a little more cerebral. Not to say that it's just like, oh, like he's on some like L versus light timing with his fights. But usually Sanji's fights are a bit more intricate than this, right? It involves a bit more finesse. But no, he just beats the shit out of Queen. And it's fine, but I just kind of wanted a bit more. It's very hype though. It's hype, got lots of aura, but I don't know. I did want a bit more from this fight with Sanji as well, because Sanji's not usually that type of character for me. If I want extremely just hype, crazy shit going on, I'm gonna go to Zoro's fights. And boy, oh my god, before we talk about King, there's a small little moment before they split off. So in the manga, Marco says, well, wait, I need to stop fighting because the superstars are here. And you have Sanji and Zoro appear to come and fight Queen and King. But in anime, it says the superstar is here, singular. And Zoro shows up, and there's this fantastic sequence where both of them rush and land a blow on King and Queen. But Sanji gets kind of disrespected here. I don't really know why, because it's been out long enough to where that's not just like a simple translation issue. I don't know why that is. I don't know why Toei decided to have Zoro be the main focus and just have Sanji kind of there. Obviously, it's still very hype seeing him, but I don't know. Very weird. So we have Zoro versus King. This is one of my favorite fights for Zoro. Do I think this is up there with like Zoro versus Mr. One? Absolutely. This fight is fantastic, not just because of the animation itself, but we have Zoro with Enma, and we have this kind of random flashback where he thinks to where one of his old masters was actually from Wano, and there's this whole plot thread to where one of Zoro's ancestors was from Wano, and actually his ancestor was Ryuma, the guy he fought for one of his swords, Shusui, in Thriller Bark. This is a bit random, and I wish that Oda kind of went a bit harder with this, because I don't know, we have Zoro in the land of samurai, and the best we get is, you know, some light lore on his ancestry, but like there's not that much of a big focus on it. I feel like it was kind of just there. And we have Zoro actually encountering King, and King is one of a special race of people. I forget forget their name, I do apologize. Editor, please put it on the screen. Originally from Morijua, the Holy Land, where the world government currently resides in, and they have these flames on their backs, they have dark skin, white hair, and Zoro's fight with him, Zoro has to think to himself, okay, why can't I attack him? Why is he blocking now? And he comes to understanding that when his flames are smaller, he can be hit, but he's just faster. He's much harder to hit. But when his flames are fully out, that's when his defense goes up. And dude, the amount of fucking hype in this shit, dude, this when people told me to watch this episode, oh my god, bro. Nah, dude, that shit with the 103 mercies, oh my god, dude. They went so hard, chat. They knew they made that episode just for me. I thank you, Tobi. Y'all made the episode just for me. Good East on that episode. Good East. Fantastic. And Zoro and Sanji obviously take the dub. But during all this craziness, we actually have Yamato versus Kaido. Now, Yamato versus Kaido. Kaido in this, dude, he looks straight just demonic, dude. Kaido has some absolutely fantastic animation in his fight, and Yamato with their devil fruit as well has some crazy ass showings. And One Piece power scalers, answer this question for me: where does Yamato scale when it comes to like One Piece scaling? Like, is Yamato like Sanji, Zoro level? Is she like Seven Warlord of the Sea like level? Because like Kaido wasn't trying to like kill Yamato. That's his son, regardless, right? I know there's a bit of controversy regarding Yamato's gender because Yamato identifies as a male, but then I guess that it was said at one time that she doesn't want to be a male or something. I don't know, but she's also in the men's bath with them as well. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to refer to Yamato as Kaido's son and as a male. I think it's interesting to have a trans allegory in modern anime, specifically from Japan. So I like it. Cool, sure. But yeah, Yamato is putting on an absolutely insane showing with their fight against Kaido. Fantastic animation all around. I mean, they did their best. Was Yamato going to take down Kaido? No, absolutely not. And one thing about Kaido and Luffy's fight is because it is so long. Holy shit. This fight, dude, this fight felt like it took forever. And Luffy gets knocked out, I think 2 or 3 times. And the last time he's knocked out, he's actually thrown entirely off the island. Funnily enough, when Luffy is thrown off the island, you know homeboy from Fishman Island, the dude that's been like sitting on their ship like the entire time, is just like sitting in a barrel, they had no idea he was there. Well, he actually had some food stored up within his devil fruit ability, the swamp fruit, and he actually is essential in getting Luffy back into the fight to fight Kaido. I never thought this dude was going to be relevant ever again. I thought it was just a gag that Oda forgot. Going back to what I said previously about how Kaido snuck attack Oden, there's actually a world government agent, he's a CPO member, who actually jumps in the middle of Kaido and Luffy's fight, and Luffy is so confused as to who this individual is that Kaido accidentally gets a cheap shot on Luffy once again, and Kaido kind of looks at this guy and says, "You know what I have to do to you now, right?" Kaido was so upset that this dude stopped his fight with Luffy, who was getting stronger and stronger during his fight, that he just fucking obliterated this guy. So while all this chaos is going on with Luffy and Kaido, we have Kid and Law fighting Big Mom. Now, Big Mom actually, during this fight, was actually entertaining, and Big Mom actually felt like a legitimate threat. Now, I know some people are like, oh, well, she felt like a legitimate threat all the way in Whole Cake Island. To me, personally, Big Mom was just, like, there. Like the entire island was like, oh, well, we need to stop her hunger pangs, and she said, you know, wedding cake, wedding cake, wedding cake, wedding cake the entire time. But here, she actually feels like a competent villain. I really like this fight with Kid and Law. Law is one of my favorite characters in One Piece as well. Dare I say, like, top 5 character in One Piece. And seeing him along with Kid awaken their devil fruits and just put on an absolutely crazy showing and have a very, very, very smart fight with Big Mom as well. I mean, they went hard, intertwining the fact that there were all these weapons and nukes that were like on top of Onigashima as well in the weapon room, and the fact that when Big Mom falls, you have all these fucking nukes dropping down on her as well. That shit went, yo, I was like, oh my god, Big Mom got nuked. Yo, Big Mom got dusted. That is the first time we've seen like an emperor killed. That's just like straight up just gone, right? But an absolutely fantastic fight from Kid and Law as well. And we have Luffy's heartbeat begin to change, and we have the drums of liberation. Now, I did not know, I just found this out the other day, that Joy Boy is based off of, I believe, a Caribbean myth by the same name, Joy Boy, who dances, and his drum, whenever he rings his drum, it causes people to dance and feel happy. Very interesting. I did not know that, but also apparently people were telling me that a lot of One Piece's like myths and things like that were based off of real myths and mythology. So it's really cool. It's actually a really nice detail. And so we have Gear 5 awakening with Luffy because he was so close to death. We've seen things like this before, and it's caused the world government to absolutely shit themselves. And so we actually have the reveal that the Gum Gum fruit is actually called the Hito Hito no Mi, the human fruit, model name Nika. And apparently this is based off of Nika, the sun god. Now, how do I feel about Luffy getting this fruit based off of this? I don't like predestination in stories. I really don't. I feel like it takes agency away from everything the main character does. It's part of one of my biggest issues with Naruto as well. Because like, oh, like you guys are descendants of these fucking aliens, and you guys were always destined to meet and intertwine with each other. Like I don't like that. I don't like that. I feel like it takes away from the fact that like how we got here was strictly off of chance. And like Luffy has worked for everything that he has gotten for the most part, right? But this was an odd reveal. I don't necessarily know if I like it, but learning that the Gum Gum fruit is not what it was originally called, I think that was very interesting, but I'm just not a huge fan of Luffy having this. And then you have all this craziness with Gear 5. Do I really need to talk about Gear 5 in detail? I mean, like I had seen clips of Gear 5, but and as I was going on stream and reading this, when I was actually like watching some of these anime clips and seeing like how crazy this was, it was great. I didn't have any context when I saw like these clips 2 or 3 years ago, but actually having context and knowing all the events surrounding it, it was very entertaining. All the Toon Force and Kaido getting absolutely whooped. You have that up close shot of Kaido just like, huh, before he gets hit with his own blast attack. It was cool. It was a good moment. I love it. By the way, you have Nami and Usopp versus Page One and one of the other Tobi Roppo members. I don't really know. Usopp doesn't do a whole lot in this arc, man. He's just kind of there, and I'm not a huge fan of it personally. And you also have the reveal that Kinemon is actually alive. Kinemon was seemingly killed by Kaido after I believe he defeated Luffy the second time, and he just straight up fucking cracks Kinemon's skull. I thought he just compressed his spine. I was like, holy shit, like how much impact was drawn. I'm like, damn, Kinemon's dead? I thought it was gonna be integral for Momonosuke's character. But no, Kinemon's alive because he was cut in half previously by Law. I guess he says that it wasn't full all the way or something. It was just dumb shit, man. No. Fake out death. Not a fan of it. Not a fan of it at all. Also, you have one of the Scabbards actually have their arm cut off, and Zoro is actually pretty emotional by that. It's one of the female samurai that he encountered, and Zoro was actually upset about that. We don't see Zoro upset for other people's sake very often, but yeah, I like it. People talk about how Zoro isn't emotional, and I don't think that's true. I think it's just they've gotten into way more serious situations, so there's not as much room for error and not as much room for being lax. So no, I don't think so. Luffy's just beating the absolute dog shit out of Kaido. I think one of my favorite bits is where he grabs a lightning and makes like a lightning cage. Dude, that entire sequence is absolutely phenomenal. Great moment for Luffy as well. Just seeing how far Luffy has came during his journey in One Piece. Great. It's just whew. During all of this going on, we actually have Momonosuke getting aged up during the middle of the fight, and Momonosuke actually is now this big, huge dragon. He is smaller than Kaido, but he's still significantly bigger than he was when he was a kid. I believe he is now at the age of 21 or 25. I don't remember how old he is exactly. But Momonosuke is trying to stop Onigashima from falling and crushing the land of Wano as it is. And seeing Momonosuke, kind of conquer his fear. He's always been kind of a scaredy cat. He's always been very, meek. So whenever it comes to anything like hard or anything scary revolving like Kaido or even Doflamingo. He's always, had to face his fear. Even when he flies, he had to cover his eyes. But now him actually grabbing onto the clouds, actually learning to like breathe fire and things like that. I like these moments for Momonosuke. Momonosuke he's good. I like his character. He's not my favorite, but it was actually very, very hyped for me actually seeing him grab the clouds and try to slow Onigashima down. I like that moment. So we have a bit of Kaido's flashback, which I talked about, and how he was only respected for his strength. We see his flashback with King as well, him rescuing King from these government experiments and whatnot. And Kaido himself actually wanted to be like Joy Boy, to be the one to find the One Piece. Kaido always thought of himself as the main character. Strength for Kaido is, above everything else, and I've always respected it about his character. I like him. He knows exactly what he is, and we have Kaido accepting the fact that he's not Joy Boy, and the fact that Luffy actually is the main character of the fucking show. And we have the Bajrang Gun versus Flame Dragon. We have Luffy versus Kaido for this final clash. And Kaido asks Luffy, why are you fighting so hard for? What do you want? And Luffy tells Kaido, I want a place where everybody can eat as much as they want. Obviously, Luffy talks about the freedom that he wants. Luffy mentioned all the way back when he was in prison in Kuri the fact that he's always been free. And I thought that line was kind of weird because Luffy hadn't really spoken like that ever. It felt a bit poignant for Luffy's character. And I knew Gear 5 was happening, but to actually fully go back and bring full circle this idea that Luffy brings freedom everywhere he goes, just like this one mythological figure. People talk about, oh, Luffy's a god. Well, no, he's not. He's still very mortal. But obviously, Joy Boy is entirely different. From what information we know about Joy Boy, he was on a different level. Luffy's not there yet, unfortunately. He's still young. But we have ye old hockey clash between Kaido and Luffy, and yes, Luffy ends up getting the finishing blow on Kaido, and Kaido is defeated. He falls into the earth along with Big Mom, and seemingly Kaido is dead. And Onigashima stopped, and Momonosuke manages to save Wano. And we have the celebration of Wano. We have one of the children in Wano, when they're riding on these lanterns to send to the sky, they're talking about, I want to see my mommy and my daddy again. I want to be able to eat as much as I want. This is the one time during the year they can actually express themselves fully. And it's a very poignant moment when Luffy defeats Kaido. I love this moment. And so during the semi-epilogue that we have Green Bull arriving, he's one of the admirals of the Navy. Now, I was like, I don't know, because we kind of got a tease of him in the Revelry arc. So I was like, oh, well, this guy might be serious. He might be a problem. And he's one of these Logia users. I believe he's like a tree forest type user, whatever. Well, Shanks actually was around Wano. He wasn't in Wano, but he was around Wano. His observation haki was so intense. He saw what Green Bull was doing, and he got so mad at Green Bull trying to stomp out Momonosuke and these other people from fucking 16 miles away, an hour away. He sent his haki and took him out of Logia form and made him pass out. Bro. Huh? Yo, when I read this on stream, I was like, what in the fuck? I was geeked. I said, Shanks got, every time Shanks shows up every 3 arcs, it's a movie, right? He's that guy, right? Oda's always gonna move the goalpost. Shanks is like Beerus from Dragon Ball. He's always gonna be stronger than the main character because they always need to be a point where the main character wants to be, right? But to see him actually take somebody out on Admiral at that far away, that's fucking crazy. Shanks also has a fantastic showing in Egghead as well, but we'll talk about it later. So eventually we have the Straw Hats bounties being updated, and Luffy is officially named as an Emperor of the Sea. Luffy officially gains Yonko status. Going from starting One Piece over a year ago to now, and seeing Luffy's rise as a young man, as a leader, and fully gaining the government's fear and respect, that's fucking crazy, man. This kid has gone through so much, and I don't want to say it got me super emotional, but it put a smile on my face, man. It really did. Just like Shanks, I was like, man, you became a quite formidable pirate. Love to see it. And we have Wano symbolically opening its borders to neighboring nations and all that, and Straw Hats finally depart. So overall, my thoughts on overall, my thoughts on Wano. I like it. I do think there was just a bit too much going on for what Oda was trying to do. I love Act 3 for the most part. It did feel a little long. The battle between Luffy and Kaido, it felt, I don't want to say it felt dragged out, but holy shit, this fight is. I think it's the longest fight that Luffy has had on screen. I wasn't a huge fan of Sanji versus Queen. Zoro versus King in the manga was honestly a bit underwhelming for some reason. I think it just has to do with some of the art, but like when he lands that finishing pose and his arms are spread in the anime, that shit was phenomenal. Shit was fire. And I think I kind of understand where people are saying that the anime is starting to kind of carry One Piece now at this point. Obviously not entirely, but as far as like carrying the fights, I mean. And sometimes even certain scenes I feel like are better done in the anime than the manga. There's a portion in Egghead I'm gonna talk about that got me. You know what? I'll save all my Kuma talk and everything for Egghead, as everybody wants me to do. But yeah, overall, I feel conflicted with Wano. I feel like Wano, if I had to give it a scale of 1 to 10, would be maybe like a 7 to like a 7.5. I think that it's one of the better post-time skip arcs, but it did feel like undercooked to some point. But also, it did feel like some of the shit got burnt, man. Some of the shit, like, there was just a bit too much going on. Like, oh yeah, learning Yamato was in prison with like one of Zoro's ancestors and all this. Like, I'm like, cool, man, but that don't do nothing for me right now, man. I'm sorry, it doesn't do a whole lot for me. This doesn't do anything for me with like Zoro's character and everything. Also, finding out, I had to find out later on that Zoro doing the 103 Mercies was actually one of Ryuma's moves. So that I found that out through like external information. So like, I like that, but yeah, I don't know. I love the Gear 5 stuff. It's entertaining, but like finding out that the gum fruit is actually an entirely different fruit, or it wasn't named that originally, and finding out that Luffy has the same fruit as this revolutionary figure in history. I don't know. Not my favorite thing in the world. But I'll let Oda cook on that. Maybe my opinion will change once we get more information on the blank period in history and all that. I'm hoping to God that Usopp does something in Egghead, because I'm like almost finished with Egghead, I think, and he hasn't really done anything, so we'll see. Hopefully Usopp will do something in Elbaf as well. But yeah, we are officially done with the Wano Country arc. Just again, I want Oda to kind of focus up, and that's why I'm liking Egghead a bit more, because Egghead feels a bit more streamlined. There's not as many characters to keep track of, and I like the villain in Egghead. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're also traveling around to different locations in Egghead, but these are all characters that are established, that I care about, that have had proper build up, like Garp, like Kobe, like Shanks, like Captain Kidd. So Egghead to me feels better than Wano, but I'll leave all my thoughts for that in the next review. But yeah, it's me, boy Daffy, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this video. Please make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Onigashima and just Wano in general. It's me, boy Daffy, guys. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. I'm out of here.